Bill Henshaw here, Constitutional Coop Headquarters, and just had something here that, I'll be in my 40th year next month, February, 5 decades overall. Haven't seen anything like what just occurred in the OSHA case with the U.S. Supreme Court. If they're as good as their word here, we are on the right track. Because what just happened is a rule in no uncertain terms, not only against OSHA, but the concurring opinion was the opinion of an Article 3 judicial court. And I'm not aware of anything like that for at least 90 years. But with the makeup of the court now, the current makeup and the Trump appointees, along with Alito and Thomas, there's a solid majority there. And I think behind the scenes, this has been a big deal. And I've been talking about this since late 2020, that I thought the court was going this direction because Alito and Thomas made some citations to the great case of Cohens v. Virginia, 19 U.S. 264. It's an old vintage case that nobody uses anymore, but you can't cite that case without knowing exactly what it means. And, with requests for information from my modestly priced constitutional defense document packets, you're going to get one of the files will be sent, or a lot of quotes out of Cohens. Absolutely stunning in this day and age, but consistent with the original intent of the Constitution, which I believe is still there. And if it is, we all have great hope here of now being able to rein this government in and take control over it like we're supposed to have. So that said, what they just did here and the way they did it, you can't cite, here's another case, McCulloch v. Maryland goes back, vintage case into the 1820s, I believe, in this case. And, talking about the creation of corporate banking institutions and this, that, and the other. And the key case here, A.L.A. Schechter Poultry v. United States, 295 U.S. 495. That's a subtle shot that I don't even think most legal reporters on the U.S. Supreme Court will make the connection I'm doing now. Because that case was known colloquially then as the sick chicken case, and involved a case where the United States sued Schechter Poultry in a federal court for violations of interstate commerce. And it gets to the U.S. Supreme Court, not so fast. The chickens had already arrived at Schechter, and whatever happened there, was not affecting interstate commerce. Therefore, there was no jurisdiction. And that was the well-established rule for determining interstate commerce. It goes back to E.C. Knight v. U.S. 156 U.S. 1. The important point here for us is that, in my view, was the key case that led to the court packing plan of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And it wasn't successful, even with a much stronger majority in both houses of Congress than what they have now. Of course, the big deal here, as you'll learn from getting my material, send me an email, uwinnincourt@gmail.com, is that then and now, and even before, there were 0 qualified members in the House, 0 in the Senate. That's our way out here. We can dead bang, prove it black and white, and nothing they can do. No one's ever even attempted. In my 5th decade, I filed documents challenging jurisdiction with the Constitution mandates. The Supreme Court says you can do it at any time. They don't respond. What should happen with that purportedly neutral magistrate, this is the Supreme Court again, Tumey v. Ohio, 273 U.S. 510. And this is a big tip-off here, by the way, you advocates of civil rights and all this BS. The Zen Education Project at the top of the list. Took 59 years for the Supreme Court to reverse, in effect, a criminal conviction under the Due Process Clause. 59 years. And they did that because we're supposed to have neutral magistrates here, certainly not judges, quote unquote, who are state bar association members, and they're dealing with, on the other side, with prosecutors, members of the same lodge. How is that anything remotely related to neutral? You tell me. But the Supreme Court doing this, and when they cited Schechter, that's a not so subtle hint to Biden and to Congress. This is where they're going to go. Now, one of the things not clear to me yet is this a very high level game of chicken? I don't know. My instincts tell me no, it isn't. The court's waking up and they've had their backs up, with this Biden court packing plan, particularly to the extent that it might be done by executive order of the president acting as commander in chief of the armed forces. That can't happen, not in a judicial court. It could in a federal territorial legislative tribunal. And that's how the court has been acting for all this time, just like it's one of those. And yet that's the only judicial court ordained and established by this Constitution. These are the battle lines going on behind the scenes, and we will see how it plays out. If we have that court, and more importantly, and this will be on another video, but more importantly, if we have the District Court of the District of Columbia, that's the trial court, and I'll be explaining a lot about that. I've been looking into it in any event. Recent events here have magnified, the level of my research and analysis. Because if we have judicial courts, the ball game is over. Simple as that. They can't come in there, they can't oppose us, and it's going to expose all the deceit, fraud, and treason that's been going on for way too long. That's how big a deal this case is. And having said that, anybody that requests orders or information for orders, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. I will give you my highlighted and at this moment in time, lightly annotated version of the concurring opinion written by Gorsuch, supported by Alito and Thomas. And you can almost be sure that Barrett is in the fold, and Kavanaugh, although Kavanaugh in the same case voted to go differently on other issues of it. And by the way, it's being remanded back to the district court for further, and this is what they should have done from day one. But I knew, and I said it on my videos earlier, when the court took it on an emergency basis and put it on the calendar for oral argument, I knew right then and there they were going to do what they did. That would have been very ugly to do it otherwise, and not have full briefing, full oral argument, and the whole thing. That's eventually going to happen, and I am planning on putting in, or attempting to put in, a brief of amicus curiae, which is friend to the court. And those of you that order my materials and hook up with me, I'm going to be preparing original documents based on what I've been talking about here to raise these issues. And by the way, it may not be obvious on the surface. You're going to learn. You get my materials, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com. With this interstate commerce business, that's one of the biggest problems we have. We get rid of that, we're more than halfway home to getting our nation and republic back, and getting away from the goddamn democracy, heavily ballyhooed democracy, 3 wolves and 2 sheep voting on what's for dinner, in which not only are the members of the sovereign body politic not represented in any department, no one else is either. Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, just these goddamn corporations that control everything. That's what needs to change more than anything. If we do that, I will have done the job I'm put here to do, made things better for my generation, the next generation, and my sweetie's current, generation with their 5-year-old grandson, and helping change things for the better for ourselves and our posterity. Exactly what the framers attempted to do, ordaining and establishing this Constitution. That's how important it is. And we have at least 5 and maybe 6 members of the court that seem to have that clearly in view now. And the good news is that majority is going to stay there. It'll survive if somehow, the Democratic nominee wins the quote unquote presidential election in 2024, which doesn't exist, by the way. That's another thing you're going to learn. There's no electorate. There are no elections. And that brings up the magic 4 words: consent of the governed. They don't have one iota of it. The hell with due process. Who cares about that? Consent of the governed. That's the way it was from day one. That's the way it is now. That's how we get out from under. We all work together, Americans, Africans, Asians, stay on the same page, cut out this divide and conquer crap they've been doing for way too long, and we'll get far better results. So that said, it's astounding. It really is. In fact, I was so out of sorts when I heard this. I was stunned, and I didn't even know what day of the week it was. And ever so briefly, I didn't know what decade I was in. I had to recheck this opinion and be sure it wasn't written by A.L.A, who's been dead for 50 years, for those of you that don't know, and or Roger Brooke-Taney, that notorious racist back in the day who wrote the majority opinion in Scott v. Sanford, otherwise known as civil rights types and other treasonous idiots, as that infamous Dred Scott case. And there wasn't anything, if you read the opinion, it was certainly right on constitutionally with what the law was and what it is. And those of you out there get used to it. In a political sense, the sovereign body politic was and is free, white, male, 21. Get used to it. Because if you can go and do what they did with the non-existent 14th War Amendment, and in effect not only change that body, but do away with it. If you can do it the way it was done and violate all 6 articles of the Constitution, and you'll learn from getting my materials, that's a dead bang black and white case is what happened there. Then there is no Constitution, and that's exactly how they're acting these days. There's no few, if any, provisions of the first 6 articles that are enforceable at all. And you'll learn a lot about that by getting my materials, just how bad it is. But I still think we can fix it, in the only nation ever created in which it's possible to do it. And if we do that, we lead the other ways for nations to follow our lead and get back to where we belong. If I do that, I will have done the job I was put here to do. Even if I don't get across the Red Sea and see the final result, if that happens, I will be very, very pleased with all the time and effort I put in here. And I just wish I had been taught this 50 years ago when I was in high school, right outside of Washington, D.C., wouldn't you know? But better late than never. And you can learn now and teach your kids, teach your posterity to get out from under. The quicker we do that, the quicker we get these bastards off our backs. That said, send me an email, youwinnincourt@gmail.com for information. Subscribe, like the videos, tell your friends, get the word out. The sooner we start all working together, the quicker we get these bastards off our backs. Thank you.